So, every one of us in this room should have 3 visions. One is for what your business is going to do this year. The other one is what the future of your business and your profession looks like as well. The third one is, what does that reward look like for you when you decide that you want to retire? The first 2 are what you're working on today, and that's important, and that has to be revisited on a regular basis. It's that last one about your retirement, what that really looks like at the end, and whatever retirement means to you. It means different things to different people. It doesn't mean you stop working. It just means that there's something else that you envision you'd like to do when you sell your company, all right? Or you don't have to work in your company every day. It's paying you your retirement. That's the most challenging of it all. And having a plan in place is one of the ways that you do that. Having a plan helps you do a lot of different things. First one is, it potentially can lead you and help you to build more wealth. Number 2, it can help you to protect your family and make sure that all those people that you care about are taken care of as well. It can help you manage some of the tax liabilities that might exist out there, not only today but in the future, because that personal plan has to be integrated into your business plan. We spend all of our time and our focus, I know I do, most of my time and my focus on my business. That's why oftentimes that retirement planning part gets put off. And we want to make sure that we don't, because you can miss a lot in the process by doing that. So, today, what we're going to do is we're going to cover off on a number of things that I think should be considerations for you in terms of how to integrate the 2, but more importantly, how to plan for that point in the future when you can reap all of those rewards that are important to you. Now, inside those packages in front of you, there is a checklist. It is a business owner's checklist. What we'd like you to do post this conference is to go through that. It is simply a way for you to take an inventory of what you are doing and what maybe you need to be doing. So, yeses are great. No's, every time you check off a no, you might say, hey, maybe we need to address this in some shape or form. A number of years ago, I had a neighbor who lived across the canal from me in my house in Boca Raton. And he was a great guy. He was retired, very successful at what he had done. He'd spent his entire life and career working for a small financial institution by the name of Citigroup. He had actually become the managing director of all of Latin America. So we became friends. As a matter of fact, his kids and my kids actually used to play out in the canal and on the water sports, as it were. And he had an idyllic life. He'd retired, and he'd every now and then, while we were sitting on the back patio having a few drinks, he'd say, here's what I'm doing. What do you think? And I go, well, I think that maybe you've put a little bit too much emphasis on the fact that Citigroup, your company, you are wholly dependent on for your retirement. That's where all his retirement, the majority of his retirement was. Along comes 2008, financial crisis. His contention was, what could possibly happen? It's one of the biggest financial institutions in the world. I'm secure, I'm safe. Well, guess what? His nice boat, which, by the way, I love the boat that he had behind his house, is gone. He had to sell his house, and unfortunately, he had to get divorced. Yeah, it's pretty catastrophic. So, let's face it, there's a lot of change that's taking place, and it's going to continue to take place. And that rate of change is actually accelerating. Let's think about that for a second. We have personal things that change. Our families, our health can always affect what we're doing. We've got the business environment. That business environment that we're in right now, we saw what the pandemic did. We saw it with supply chain shutdowns. And now, which is a big topic of discussion, especially at our table, because these are all tech people. I have no idea what they're talking about. Is artificial intelligence. That's truly going to change the face of business going forward. And then there's the economic environment that we're living in. Folks, it's going to constantly change. We're going to go through booms and busts. Business cycles will happen no matter what happens. I don't know how quickly or how much it's going to accelerate, but it's going to happen. And then, of course, there's the legislative side of it. We just went through this debt crisis thing. Lord knows what the government's going to do next that can affect our business. So what is this telling us? It's telling us that we can't put 100% of our faith and our financial well-being in our company. We need to diversify. We need to have other ways to support ourselves financially, given whatever happens in the future. That's what planning is all about. And that's why having a plan is absolutely critical.
All right, how many people in the room have a financial plan or retirement plan?
Good.
Oh, pretty good number. Now, this is not to be confused with an investment plan, which just shows the growth of proposed portfolio or a hypothetical insurance illustration. This is something that actually takes your income, your expenses, your investments, and your goals and projects those out going forward to see what that looks like. As a business owner, it's also important that you incorporate your business planning into that personal financial plan because it is a big part of your plan, that business. When putting together a plan, it's important that you include your current financial situation as well as your personal financial goals for 1, 3, 5 years, and then retirement. What does that retirement look like? How much is that going to cost? How much will you need to fund that lifestyle? And do you plan on leaving a legacy to family or heirs? And making sure to create a plan around all of that. Now keep in mind, a financial plan is not designed to tell you down to the penny how much you have at any time in the future. It's designed to say, are you headed in the right direction? Or is there maybe a more efficient or effective way that you could reach some of those goals that you have? As part of that plan, you need to run a stress test to make sure that some of those adverse scenarios that Al mentioned, if they come up, that you're going to be okay. One of those that you can run is called a Monte Carlo situation, where it takes 1,000 different market scenarios and says, what are the odds of you reaching your goals based on where you're at now and where you're headed? And it's a good measure to make sure you're on track. Another thing that we like to do are called what-ifs. These are specific scenarios that you can run, such as high inflation environment, like we're seeing now, low return environment, economic or business disruptions, life events such as having children, paying for college education, health issues, or death. How does that affect your plan and make sure that you, your family, and your business are going to be okay? This is an example of what happens if you predecease your spouse. Is your family going to be okay? Are they going to be able to maintain their lifestyle and be able to achieve those goals, such as, for example, paying for college for kids? Are they going to be covered? As you can see in this scenario, the person runs out of money. So a good plan will give you the opportunity to say, okay, well, if I make these changes, what does that look like? And we can solve that and say, okay, how does that affect me going forward to make sure that you have adequate coverage and solutions in place so that your family and your business are covered.
So this is not a what if. We are going to be paying taxes. And as you might notice from this chart, we're actually in a historically low rate level right now. Well, you just heard all this news over the last month or so. The government's only got two choices. They're either going to cut back their spending, or they're going to raise taxes. Which do you think it's going to be?
Yes.
Yeah. It's not likely the first one, but we'd love to see that. But here's something else that we have to remember, and it has to be baked into our plan, both for our businesses and our personal lives. The Jobs Act, Tax Act and Jobs Act of 2017 sunsets in 2025. All familiar with that? That actually dropped these rates down to that level that you see there. It sunsets. And at the end of that time, it goes back up. Just automatically. Unless they raise it beforehand or whatever, it's going to happen. So taxes are an important part of your consideration in terms of how do we manage to that. And we don't know what's going to happen in the future, which is why it's absolutely critical that we create flexibility in our assets, our wealth, to be able to manage to whatever tax scenario gets thrown at us in the future. The thing that we call tax allocation. This is part of your diversification strategy. As a matter of fact, it's a very core component of it. It tells you where you might want to allocate your assets so that you have options as to how you take money, draw money down, to minimize what that tax issue is. I don't know about you, but I don't like sending my money off to the IRS. It's a problem. When I'm planning in the future, when you're planning 10, 15, 20, 30 years in the future, you need to have the ability, the flexibility, to determine how you want to pay that tax liability. And there's three tranches you can put it into. Taxable, which is savings and brokerage, and you can put it in tax deferred, which is like retirement plans and annuities. And you got tax-free ways to do that. And there's really three. The third one's not on here. You got municipal bonds, but that's kind of more for like when you're retired, because that creates tax-free income. But then you also have cash value life insurance, which is the only other one that's legally allowed in this country, along with Roth. How many of you have Roths in your retirement plans? Good. And there's a lot of planning that goes around how do you use your Roth, or whether or not you use the Roth, which comes out better. So here, let me take you through first couple of these. First one is, let's talk about taxable, the taxable tranche. One of the things that a lot of people do is they say, well, I'm going to take some of my money, I'm going to invest in the market. Well, that's a great idea, because the market historically has done very well. But then they make a big mistake. And you know what the mistake is? They say, well, I want to invest in things that I know about. I'm going to invest in things like what my company does. Okay, so that means that this, which has ups and downs, it's going to be exactly like what your company's doing. It's going to have ups and downs like your company. So you really haven't diversified that much. But being able to invest in other companies allows you to diversify into other businesses that could be counter to what your business cycle might be. But more importantly, has a great potential to grow. So that's the taxable tranche. Then there's tax deferred. What this does is it simply says, I'm not going to send the IRS a check today on my income. I'm going to put it away, and I'm just going to let that grow, compound, without the IRS taking a bite out of it, regardless of what the tax rates are. They're not going to take it out. And at some point in the future, when you start to draw it out, yeah, you do have to pay taxes on it. But again, that's kind of an unknown. But the important part is the compounding qualities of being able to tax defer that is amazing. See the chart. We used a 6% number. Now, two ways that you can do that. You can do that through retirement plans, or you can do it through annuities. Retirement plans. All right, I saw a lot of hands went up. How many of you have company retirement plans? Great. Retirement plans should be part of your personal financial plan, especially as a business owner. As an employee or a professional of a company, you need to take advantage of it because it gives you the advantage to save more than just a regular IRA. And what does it do? It allows you to do what? It allows you to build that wealth up without anybody being able to go after it. The challenge here is that there's a lot of them. There's a lot of different options that exist. Knowing which one is best for you and your company, that takes a little bit of work because there's lots of different ways to make a retirement plan, structure a retirement plan, so that it benefits both you and your employees. Speaking of employees, interesting study done by Fidelity. Guess what? The number one requirement to attract and retain talent is having a retirement plan. I would suggest to you today that if you have a company, you're growing a company, or if you are going to go join a company, see what kind of retirement plan they have. See what options are available to you. See if it allows you to advance your retirement goals, hopefully because you've done a retirement plan to determine how to do that. So this is really one of the key considerations in terms of making sure that you have the right kind of plan for your personal situation, your company, and your employees.
So having the right type of plan for your company can help you out with, again, Al mentioned maximizing savings, but also minimizing taxes. If it's designed correctly, it also administratively is easier for you. I wanted to share with you an example of a way that you can combine different types of retirement plans to put away significantly more than you otherwise would be able to. This is an example of a company we actually work with. There's a couple of doctors here. This is actually Doctor's office. So there's 2 owners and 14 employees. And this is what their testing looked like. They combined a 401k safe harbor profit sharing plan with a cash balance pension plan. those, as you can see, below at the bottom here for you, that year they're able to put away up to $700,000, almost $700,000 in tax-deferred savings. Of that, over 95% of that benefit is going to the two business owners. So let's assume 35% tax rate. That's over $230,000 in tax-deferred savings. They're able to take that money in the account and grow for a later date, and then in their retirement, they can take that out at a lower tax rate, ideally. Again, there's lots of different types of accounts that can be saved for retirement. So it's really about what is the right combination that makes sense for you. When it comes to tax-free savings, Al mentioned there's really three options: Roth IRAs or Roth 401ks, municipal bonds, and then cash value life insurance. Roth IRAs, for those of you who are not familiar, you're going to put in after-tax contribution. The money is going to grow tax-free and come out tax-free in retirement. Municipal bonds are just bonds that pay tax-free coupons. And the last one that a lot of people don't realize can create tax-free income is cash value life insurance. So there's actually two options for that. That's whole life insurance and universal life insurance. And then, of course, there's lots of sub-options for designing those policies. I wanted to share a quick example of one of these for you as well. This is one that a lot of business owners like because it uses leverage so that they don't have to put up as much liquidity to help pay for this policy. So they're able to get more benefit for less dollars out of pocket. As you can see here in this example at the top, you as the individual are going to pay half the premium in the first 5 years, and then it's going to take a bank loan for the other half. Then the next 5 years, the bank's going to pay the next 5 years of premium. After 15 years, the policy takes out a loan to pay back the bank, and you own a bigger policy than you otherwise would have gotten for those 5 payments. Benefit of this also is, first of all, again, higher death benefit, so it's using that leverage, but also it's that tax-free income in retirement. This would be a great option for if you have a buy-sell agreement and you need to fund that. So business owners like that a lot. One last thought on tax strategies, and I think there's a CPA over here. Yep. The benefit of being a business owner is there's a lot of other deductions that you can take advantage of, and you need to talk to your CPA about those. For example, if you have kids, I just had my first child in December, you can hire a child in the business. Thank you. You can hire a child in the business to do things like advertising or work around the office, pay them up to the standard deduction, and that money can be used to pay for education expenses, for example. So just a thought, something you guys can incorporate. All right, let's talk a little bit more about insurance. So making money is part of the equation, but how do we protect that money for our families to make sure that, again, we don't have any issue down the line with some of those what-if scenarios? So death, disability, long-term care, and legal liability can have catastrophic effects on our wealth. Here's a couple of strategies that we'll talk about, so how you can protect that money. The first one's the easiest. It's emergency fund. Everyone in this room should have an emergency fund. Rule of thumb is it should be somewhere between 3 and 12 months of your essential expenses. Those essential expenses don't include Netflix, going out, those things. It's if something happened to me today and my income stopped, what are the things that I have to pay going forward? Mortgage, car payments, you need things like that, health insurance. So 6 months is the general rule of thumb, but again, that depends on your variability of income. So again, that's part of that planning process, making sure that you have that in place.
Disability? No, that's me.
I know, it's skipping the...
No.
There it is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, it's over there. Life insurance may not be the most pleasant topic to discuss, but it is one of the most important ones, especially for business owners such as yourself. If you predecease your spouse or a business partner, you need to make sure that they're covered and that they're not going to be negatively impacted. Especially, again, as business owners, a lot of times you're the primary income source for the family. Part of your financial plan needs to include a gap analysis, like the one on the screen here. Oh, that's not showing there. That's going to show if something happens to you, is your family going to be able to maintain that lifestyle and still achieve those goals? Like I mentioned, education for the kids, for example, whatever those goals may be. So you can see the top right there, if this individual is passed away next year, unfortunately, their family's going to be negatively affected. They're going to have to cut expenses or not be able to fund some of those things that they were looking to do. A gap analysis is going to say, okay, with additional insurance, what does that look like? How much do I need to make sure that they're covered? As you can see down there at the bottom. There's a number of ways that you can cover this life insurance, and it really comes down to your goals, your liquidity, and your risk tolerance. The two main types of life insurance are term and cash value. Term insurance is the least expensive, but it doesn't provide some of those additional living benefits like I had mentioned. For example, you can get that tax-free income in retirement or covering long-term care expenses. This is where an independent analysis and a financial plan can help determine which is the best option for you. As for your business, if you have a partner, hopefully everyone has a buy-sell agreement for that. Well, again, how is that funded? Properly structured buy-sell agreement with a proper funding through life insurance can help prevent a fire sale so that your business partner is covered and your family is able to get that liquidity out of the business to maintain their lifestyle. Another scenario that's equally important and similar to this is disability, right? Again, as a business owner, if you're the primary person bringing in money into the household, you need to make sure that your family's covered should you not be able to work any longer. A proper gap analysis similar to this can help determine how much coverage needed to make sure that they are taken care of as well as, like I said, your business owner. Oh, there it goes.
Seems like I get all the happy subjects. So, according to the Department of Health and Welfare, 2 out of 3 people, that means if you look around your table, all right, 2 out of 3 will need some type of long-term care after they reach the age of 65. That's the real life story out there. And it's something that is so far off in the future that sometimes it's very hard to figure out how that will impact us. Again, this is returning back to the planning part of it, making sure that you have a plan and a strategy in place to deal with some of these things, because the last thing in the world that any of us want to do is to be a burden on our family, either emotionally, physically. He doesn't want to change my diapers, I can guarantee you that. Nor do we want to, be in a position where we drain down the funds in our accounts, our savings, so that our survivors or beneficiaries, whoever they might be, don't have the money. So it's something that's been, Matt, where are you, Matt? Where'd you go? Okay. On the call last night, what did you say that it costs right now for in-home care on a monthly basis?
24/7 would not live in caregivers awake overnight. 24/7 is about 15, 16 grand a month.
All right, hear that number? 15, what? Okay. 15, 16 grand a month. All right, that's today. If we have a 3% average inflation rate, I know that's lower than what it is now, but that's what it's been historically for the past whatever number of years. That means in 24 years, that number is going to likely double. These are the types of things that we have to be able to plan for very, very carefully. And there's other liabilities that we should be looking at as well. I'm going to step off the slide for a second. And we need to insulate all this wealth, all this stuff that you're working so hard for, to make sure that people can't get at that for whatever reason. And and I'll be careful of this because there's a number of attorneys in the room and they're very important. But let's face it, people can come at us financially. And there are things that can help protect that. Retirement plans, for instance, all right? Retirement plans, for the most part, are completely credit approved, like 401ks. IRAs in the state of Florida are good up to $1 million. Life insurances and annuities, credit approved. All of these things have to be baked into what you look at as it relates to protecting everything that you work so hard for. Inside that folder that we gave you is a couple of resources. And we really would like you to take a look at it, because we would like to recommend this to you. When you find those yeses, you're probably going to find that some come up on this list. Like, for instance, the first thing you ought to do, if you do not have a personal retirement plan, you really do need to get one. This is a financial plan, retirement plan. You really should put one in place. All right? Second thing is, if you have one, it needs to be updated. How many times do you do this, Ari? Every quarter? Every retirement plan, financial plan should be reviewed at least annually. Things happen. Changes take place. Make sure you update it. Maybe your dreams and your vision changes a little bit. Great. That's what that plan's for. Just the same benefit you get out of doing this for your business, you get out of doing it for a plan. If you have a company retirement plan, when was the last time you had it reviewed? Guess what? A couple of things are happening here. First of all, ERISA mandates that you have that plan reviewed on a regular basis. And they've determined that it's like every 2 years at the minimum. All right? Second thing is we had the Secure Act 2.0 that was passed at the end of last year, and it had over 90 changes. Those changes, some of them take effect this year, next year, and some following years. And if your plan does not adopt those changes, guess who they're going to come to and penalize because you didn't put them in place? It's going to be you. That retirement plan is your road to being able to manage your taxes better, put money away in a tax-preferred way, potentially create tax-free income or tax-deferred income for you in the future. It is one of the core components for you as a business owner or as an employee to save for that thing that is so far off in the future and it's kind of hard to visualize sometimes, but it's really important. So it needs to be reviewed. And make sure that you review the things for your insurance to make sure that you, your family, and your company are protected. So next steps, things that you really ought to do. And then the tax strategy. Remember I talked about tax allocation. Working in concert with your tax specialist. Have you structured your wealth appropriately so that you will have the flexibility to manage something that's kind of difficult? What appears to be difficult. And that is how much you have to pay out of that wealth and that income that you're making. Take a little bit of that control back and being able to do that. All right. Townsend Financial Life Management is a planning-based firm. That's what we do. We're retirement specialists, and we help individuals and companies to take all of these things into consideration to create something that's very specific for them as individuals, for their companies, to make sure they're maximizing their ability to save for that one thing that's very hard for us to focus on sometimes. Because we're deeply involved in our business and our profession. So one of the things that we want to be able to provide everybody in this room is we will provide a complimentary consultation. Go through that checklist. If you find some things, come up with yeses, we will be more than happy to sit down and talk to you, whether it's on the personal side or whether it's on the corporate side. Remember, by the way, I forgot to mention something. The Secure Act 2.0, how many of you do not have a company retirement plan? A couple of you? Okay, I got some great news for you. Inside that act, it's either low cost or no cost for you to actually set up those plans today through tax credits. There's some amazing tax credits involved. So, something else that you might want to look at. At any rate, please take us up on the offer. We would be happy to do that. All it's going to take is a little bit of time, and you dedicate this much time to your business. It's very important to dedicate a similar amount of time, maybe not every quarter, but at least once a year. Sit down and take a look at this and make sure that you're on track to really reap all those rewards for all the hard work and effort that you're putting in to your business. I want to thank you. AJ, anything?
That's all.
Thanks for letting us talk to you.